The whole castle is in a state of grief at Jaehaerys' death. Aegon starts acting like a maniac, pointing fingers at the guards for having poor security and blaming Rhaenyra for what happened. Although some in the council assume it could be someone else, Otto thinks it is the perfect way to blame Rhaenyra and gain the general public's support through sympathies. The women are not in fair using a child's death, but they aren't given a choice either. Helaena even has a panic attack seeing the event occur, but she was forced to follow through with it. Rhaenyra is bewildered at the accusations since she never gave any such command. She wants to deny such allegations that she won't ever lay a finger on an innocent life, but everyone tells her it is of no use. After the meeting, Rhaenyra confronts Daemon for doing any such thing. Daemon tells her he asked for Aemon's head, but Rhaenyra is sure he must have commanded such an outrageous thing if Aemond was not found. The two get into a heated argument about Daemon, still thinking he deserved to be on the throne and not accepting her as his queen. Daemon ends up speaking words that hint at him not believing in her being eligible for the throne and trying to control her. Baela is given the orders to keep a watch on the king's landings while Daemon leaves with a dragon. Cole confronts Eric and starts accusing him of being the traitor. Eric denies all such allegations rightfully, but just because his inseparable twin brother went with Rhaenyra, he is under the radar of being the one who must have let the murderers inside the castle. Cole keeps pushing around the fact that he wasn't on duty at that time and tells Eric to prove himself by going to Dragonstone and striking down Rhaenyra in her halls. He wants Eric to go alone, as people will confuse him with Eric, making it easier for him to blend in. The general public is so scared of the chances of war that they have started hoarding food in their houses, creating a shortage in the market. Alan meets his brother after a long time. Adam wants Alan to make use of the fact that Lord Corlys commended him personally for his services. Alan, however, doesn't aim to sail with Corlys, even if he was offered. Adam tries to remind him of the fortunes he will make, but Alan doesn't want to use these tricks when a real war is brewing. Corlys and Rhaenys talk about Daemon's uncertain personality, but they are yet confident that even if he cannot take commands from Rhaenyra, he won't plot against her either. Mysaria is brought to Rhaenyra where she accepts that she gave her name to Daemon to do whatever he wants, but there is nothing more to it, and she doesn't know his name. All he promised was freedom in exchange for the names. Upon having an expected reaction to Daemon's leaving, Rhaenyra recalls she is someone whom Daemon promised to marry but never did. Mysaria wants Rhaenyra to honor Daemon's words, but Rhaenyra is under no such obligation. Mysaria shares her disappointment in the royals and how she built herself from scratch by stealing and selling herself. But the Hightowers burnt everything for her. She regrets working for any of them. Aegon makes the stupid decision of killing and publicly hanging all the rat catchers who worked in the castle because Blood, the knight who got captured, couldn't remember the real accomplice's face. Otto is heavily disappointed, as this would put the public against them. He's even more frustrated upon knowing Cole sent Eric on a messed-up mission. Calling Aegon unworthy of the throne results in Otto losing his position as the Hand, which is then given to Cole. Rhaenyra decides to free Mysaria as per the words of a royal. As Mysaria is made to leave by the ship, she notices Eric walking toward the town even in his knight armor. Eric manages to find his way through the castle as people consider him Eric. He manages to get into Rhaenyra's room and take out his sword at her, but before he can reach her, Eric comes inside the room. The two inseparable brothers draw swords against each other, accusing each other of being traitors. Things get dirty between the two so much that Eric ends up killing his brother. Not being able to take what he did, he kills himself right away. Frustrated at the recent events, Otto decides to return to Oldtown for now. Alicent advises him to go to Highlands instead, while she talks some sense into Aegon there. Otto is confident things will get better as long as the two are together, increasing Alicent's guilt of hooking up with Cole. As Eric and Arik are both buried together, Rhaenyra keeps no hard feelings against Arik, which is not liked by Jaehaerys. Rhaenys comes up to Rhaenyra, telling her to talk things with Alicent, as she is their only opening to avoid the war. Rhaenyra doesn't believe so and tells Rhaenys that she didn't even open the ravens sent by Alicent. Rhaenys tells her she is sure that Alicent didn't support such a decision, and this isn't the deed of Alicent or Otto. These rash actions belong to the Youngblood and the men who refuse to listen to a woman. Cole walks into the council proudly as the new Hand and decides to announce that they should lead a team to take over Harrenhal, as it is the key to Riverlands and Riverlands is the key to winning the war. No one pays heed to Alicent's words of wanting to avoid war. Cole still thinks sending Arik was not a bad idea, just like he is adamant about taking a small army to conquer Harrenhal. Aegon once again wants to send Vhagar to the war, but Cole is rational, at this least aspect for saying the dragon should stay to protect the city. Aegon also wants to go to war, but no one in the council wants him to go, making this a matter of dignity for Aegon. Upon warning everyone of Auric, Mysaria is given a wish to which she asks for a place at her court, so she can serve her by guiding her at the movements of the opponents. Rhaenyra has decided to send her sons, Joffrey, Aegon, and Viserys with her cousin, Jane Arryn. She wants an army in exchange for a dragon, and Rhaenyra wants Rhaena to tag along with them. Rhaena tries to avoid the situation by mentioning the dragon eggs and her sister Baela, but Rhaenyra requests her to make up her mind about this sacrifice. Daemon goes to the collapsing castle of Harrenhal, announcing he is claiming it. The Castellan Simon hands it over right away and invites Daemon for dinner, where he refuses to claim any link with his relative who went with Aegon. Daemon wants to repair the castle and plans to march the King's Landings and take the throne in the future. As Cole prepares to leave, Alicent makes him meet her brother, Gwaine Hightower, who has volunteered to accompany him on the mission. Gwaine's snarky remarks in the conversation clearly show his hidden distaste for Cole taking over his father's position. Rhaenyra's council keeps convincing her to go all out for a war and use the dragons, but she is insistent on not waging for this bloodshed. Rhaena feels like she is being sent away as a babysitter because she is considered weak, but she realizes her responsibility when Rhaenyra tells her she will be the hope for the future if something happens here. Aegon wears his father's armor, preparing to meet Cole on his dragon, when Larys comes up to him. As they get along, he shares two rumors with him. One is Aegon being forcefully sent to the battle to send him away. The second is that Aegon was outwitted and fooled to be sent to war, creating an opening for Alicent and Aemon to rule. Larys is smart and gets in Aegon's head, indirectly convincing him not to go. Cole tells Gwaine where the army is going to camp, making him mock them for not getting an inn. As Gwaine blabbers, Cole notices a dragon far in the sky, warning everyone to get to the trees. Baela also notices them and tries to attack them, but they manage to save their lives. When Baela reports the incident, everyone assumes that they are going to collect a greater army on their way to attack them. The council once again tells her to decide to use the dragons. Rhaenyra is still reluctant and tells them she'll think through their advice. Rhaenyra requests Mysaria to find a way for her to meet Alicent. Rhaenyra is finally convinced that Alicent will also not be in favor of bloodshed. However, she also knows a raven won't be trusted by Alicent, just like she didn't trust hers till now. Mysaria points out that she can easily enter the land in a commoner's attire, as no one notices a commoner woman dressed modestly. And then she goes to the only place Alicent goes alone. Dressed as a fully covered Catholic woman, Rhaenyra easily enters the land and travels to the church with no one recognizing her. She is right on time as Alicent is walking into the church as her knights stand outside. As Alicent lights up some candles, Rhaenyra walks up to her. The moment they are alone, Rhaenyra takes out her knife. Alicent is shocked at that, and Rhaenyra starts poorly by telling Alicent to listen or she might kill her before getting caught and being killed by her knights. Alicent scoffs at this, so Rhaenyra comes to a point. She asks Alicent to help her find a way to restore peace, but Alicent thinks that there is no more room for peace left. She accuses Rhaenyra of killing Jaehaerys, which Rhaenyra denies. The two get into an argument about the rightful heir to the throne. Alicent claims King Viserys changed his decision and took Aegon's name for the throne, something that Rhaenyra doesn't agree with. Alicent angrily claims she has never been a liar and would never lie about the king. Rhaenyra pauses at that and asks what her father said. Alicent tells him the king said Aegon was the prince who was promised to unite the realm. This shocks Rhaenyra, who mentions her father always telling this story of King Aegon the Conqueror. This shocks both of them. Rhaenyra claims there's been a mistake, but Alicent refuses to accept that and leaves, telling her things have already gone out of hand. Daemon seems to be finding himself in scenarios linked to his past. This time he enters a room where young Rhaenyra is sitting on the throne with a crown on her head and speaking to him in High Valyrian. He keeps asking her to speak plain language. The young girl is telling him that he is set to destroy her because his brother loves her more than him. He cuts the head off of young Rhaenyra only for the beheaded head to tell her that this must have been something he always wanted. The scenario gets distorted, and he wakes up realizing Simon has been telling him there's a raven. Aegon's army departed the King's Landing some days ago, and 2 castles have already fallen without siege. Now Cole's army has tripled in strength, making it dangerous for Harrenhal if Cole decides to turn towards it. Daemon meets Oscar Tully, who tells about his grandfather, Lord Grover, not being in a state to talk. Tully is flabbergasted when Daemon tells him to speed up his inheritance by killing Lord Grover just because he needs an army. He starts narrating how important his grandfather is to him, boring Daemon and making him leave. Rhaenys meets Alan and tells Corlys that he should be raised in the ranks for saving his life despite Alan's past. She tells Corlys that Baela has called her to Dragonstone because the council might try to intimidate her and Jace in Rhaenyra's absence. No one knows where Rhaenyra is except Rhaenys, who might have a clue. Alicent makes Maester bring her a special tea which Maester warns doesn't sit well with the gut. She then asks him if Viserys ever mentioned something about the heir to the throne to him since he was a close caretaker of the former king. Maester had no such conversations with Viserys, but it's evident Alicent has also started getting doubts about misinterpreting her former husband's words. The council seems arrogant and wants an upper hand on the decision in Rhaenyra's absence. They try to intimidate the rest till Corlys appears, confronting them for acting selfishly when their stance is in danger. Rhaenys reminds them that wherever Rhaenyra is, her aim must be to seek peace for her people. Cole's army has taken yet another place down. Their lord calls Cole undeserving for the White Cloak, but Cole is so deep in the addiction of power that he doesn't bat an eye to his words and beheads him in front of his people, making them bow for Aegon. Moreover, Cole has been changing the route of their siege instead of going to Harrenhal. Aegon is angry that Daemon has taken over Harrenhal while Larys reminded him how useless that place is. Aemond finally intervenes, telling Aegon that Harrenhal needs to wait, as Cole is marching towards Rook's Rest. This whole plan involves cutting Dragonstone by land and attacking them with dragons led by armies of men. Aegon is not fond of this idea and demands wanting Harrenhal back. But Aemond doesn't listen to him, confidently announcing that Cole is already preparing his attack. Aegon is humiliated in front of the council when Aemond reveals Cole has been in touch with him regarding the attack plan. Aemond then proceeds to demean Aegon for being indulged in other unnecessary matters, but speaking in High Valyrian so others don't get it. Larys visits Alicent, talking to her about matters that sound mundane but aren't. His mention of Viserys changing his decision makes Alicent mention how hard it was to understand him in his last days. But she is right that the importance of Viserys' words died with him, as divisions have been created and war is inevitable. Daemon once again gets weird visuals when trying to sleep. This time he sees himself in an eye patch similar to Aemon's. Reaching the kitchen, he comes across a weird lady, Alice, who talks in words that sound suspicious, making it hard to understand if she is plotting something or is just a good observant. Understanding why Daemon is in Harrenhal, she also mentions how this castle is cursed. Daemon calls it a tale, but how can he defend what's happening to him? Alice gives him a drink, telling him it'll help him for his sleep. However, Daemon is still facing issues as he keeps zoning out and hallucinating people for characters from his past. Aegon seems to have lost all interest in the council, provided it revolved around the plans of Aemond and Cole. He leaves the council and comes across his mother. Seeing his discomfort, she asks him what it is about, but after hearing everything, Alicent seems to add fuel to the fire by telling Aegon that he doesn't come close to having half as wisdom as his father and should just sit back and do nothing while others handle the matters. Cole tells everyone to march towards Rook's Rest right away, while Gwaine is of the idea that a siege should be late at night. Cole is unhinged at this point, not taking anyone's words to his mind and just doing what he seems to be wanting. He tells everyone that it is better to attack during the day as no one will see it coming. Gwaine tries to be rational about how the dragons are just at bay, but Cole considers it fear and ignores his words. Rhaenyra is finally back at Dragonstone, but as she makes an appearance on the council, even her son Jace is mad at her for leaving them all stranded to handle the matters on their own with a few restrictions that gave them a hard time. Rhaenyra is updated about the advances and increased strength of Cole's army, while Jace wants to know where she's been. Nobody likes that she went to the enemy's den, but Rhaenyra believed in ensuring there was no other way than war in this scenario. Now that she does, she is finally willing to use dragons for the war. Jace wants to go face Cole, but his lack of experience makes Rhaenyra stop him and suggests she go there. No one agrees that she should risk her life, and before she can argue anymore, Rhaenys speaks up that she will go since her dragon Maelys is no longer in battle. Aegon is burning with humiliation and anger at his mother's words, and decides to take matters into his own hands from now on. As the war brews up, Jace goes to Rhaenyra, expressing his anger and disappointment for not being able to get a role in this war. Rhaenyra stops him, wanting to tell him something that Viserys had told her and that Jace needs to know as heir to the throne. The Targaryen who sits on the Iron Throne are not just a king or queen, but they are a protector, ordained to lead 7 kingdoms to strengthen them and to unite them against a common foe. Rhaenyra still believes that she was the chosen one to be the protector, but to unite the realm, she had to send dragons to the war. These horrors cannot just be for the crown, so she decides to tell Jace what has been passed down to the heirs, Aegon the Conqueror's dream, what they call the Song of Ice and Fire. Meanwhile, Rhaenys is not the only one preparing to climb on her dragon and fly to Rook's Rest. Aegon is also doing the same. As the war begins, Rhaenys reaches the battlefield. People start scattering in fear of the dragon, but apparently all is going well according to Cole. He tells everyone to send the signal. As Rhaenys blows up people with her dragon, some horns are blown signaling none other than Vhagar and Aemond to rise from their hiding in the forest and prepare to confront Rhaenys. However, the plan hits a roadblock when Aegon appears there with his dragon. Aemond stops Vhagar from flying, yet Cole decides to cover the situation up by telling his knights that their king has joined them in their purpose while still hoping Aemond would come forward. Aegon confidently attacks Rhaenys, thinking he will have the upper hand, but he is soon falling short in the fight. Things start going downhill for Aegon, so when Aemond rises, Aegon believes he will be safe now. Too bad Aemond orders the dragon to attack Rhaenys, even though Aegon is going to get the blow too. No one knows if it was on purpose or a necessity, but the king has been taken down by his brother at the moment. Cole rushes towards where Aegon has fallen, but all those wanting dragons to be involved in the fight get a reality check about how unimportant and measly human beings are when two dragons are fighting. The impacts only start killing the people and even throwing Cole back to knock him out. Things have gotten bad as many die in the entire area, unknown if it was from the opponent or the dragon of their own considered heirs. The dreaded bloodshed has indeed occurred. As Rhaenys and Aemond have a combat, Vhagar ends up having an upper hand and bites Maelys's head, making Rhaenys go down along with the dead body and blow up the castle with the impact. Cole wakes up feeling pained and helpless, and when he tries asking for help to get to the king, he notices how there are merely any people left alive to help. What he was being warned about from the start is happening in front of him right now, but it is too late for him to take back that overconfidence he carried during the entire journey. Stumbling and heaving, he manages to get into the forest where Aegon and his dragon fell. It is right on time before Aemond is about to pull his sword towards Aegon. Putting the sword back, Aemond sits there, picking a scale as Cole asks where Aegon is. In front of them lie Aegon and the injured dragon in a pretty beaten-up form. Cole falls on his knees in disbelief, leaving us all in wonder if Aegon is alive or not. Cole travels with the rest of the alive knights, Aegon hid in a box, and the head of Maelys, Rhaenys' dragon, across the town, announcing their victory. However, most commoners show worry rather than happiness because killing a dragon is considered a bad omen, and they know this won't go unretaliated. Alicent sees this from afar and notices the lack of Aegon around. Seeing Aegon's dagger with Aemond makes her rush downstairs, and just like she expected, an injured Aegon is lying down on the bed. However, they aren't simple injuries. Aegon has been brutally burned and his bones have been broken, leaving the Maestros to operate on him without any guarantee that he'll survive. Aemond walks near the bed, casually mentioning how there needs to be someone acting as king in Aegon's place, clearly showing his sick intentions in front of Alicent. Alicent walks up to Cole asking what befell the king, but he refuses to say a word against Aemond. Rhaenyra's council tries to wander around her commands, mentioning how they lost Duskin Dale and Rook's Rest, and there is still no hope for Daemon's return. It seems that they don't trust Rhaenyra about the war matters, so Rhaenyra has to remind them that they also lived in peaceful times and haven't seen any more wars than her. Jace comes across Baela and tells her he plans to go to Harrenhal to bring Daemon back. Baela has to remind him that keeping him from action is to keep the next heir safe. But Jace wants to do something for the kingdom. Thinking about what to do, he realizes that the Freys control the crossing at the Twins and Cregan Stark's Greybeards are marching south, so if they get a direct route to Riverlands, Daemon won't be needed anymore for action. Jace decides to go deal with the Freys requesting Baela to not report to Rhaenyra. Daemon tries to get the Brackens onto his side, but they refuse to bow and choose to die instead. However, Daemon wants such people who'd rather burn than succumb to his army, so he asks Willem to use their weaknesses to get them on their side. Rhaenyra rants to Mysaria about how she is always disregarded by her council, and perhaps they are right, because she was never taught to combat just because she was a daughter. She also feels like requesting Daemon to come back would make her look even weaker than she already feels. While Rhaenyra sulks about her situation, Mysaria points out how Cole made a mistake by parading the dragon's head around, as it is considered a bad omen. Also, people are afraid of the current circumstances, knowing the king has fallen and bread is scarce. They might soon turn to Rhaenyra. Mysaria tells her to let others do for her what she can't do. Rhaenyra talks to Baela about Rhaenys' death to help her feel better. She then gives her a box to give to Lord Corlys, saying she doesn't wish to stand alone. Daemon gets yet another illusion in which his mother tells him he should have been king and that Viserys lacked a constitution. But suddenly he finds himself sitting at the dinner table without Simon. He gets updates from Simon about how things have been going with the remodeling, but Simon shares how they lack funds and perhaps they can send a raven to Rhaenyra about it. Daemon tells them Harrenhal is his doing, so he will be the one arranging funds. At the council, everyone is told that there is no surety if Aegon will ever wake up or not. Alicent tells the council that she will be handling the duties of the king in Aegon's absence, just like she did for Viserys. However, everyone in the council doesn't find Alicent fit for the rule in war times and calls Aemon the next in line. They are also right about how having a woman rule them will go against their fight with Rhaenyra. No one bothers about Aemon's rash behavior and short-tempered attitude in this, and even Cole deceives Alicent by favoring Aemond. Aemon gets up and takes the king's seat in the council and starts discussing the matters about their standings at Riverlands, ignoring Alicent entirely. Alicent confronts Cole for his betrayal, but it turns out Cole took an entirely different message from what he saw in the battle. Instead of realizing they made rash decisions by involving dragons and acting overconfident, he presumes that a dragon rider should lead them, and that he has spared Alicent of the terrible war stuff coming ahead. Alicent leaves after being disappointed in him. Not only Hugo's family, but many others from the town try to migrate seeing the current circumstances. However, the royalties are getting pretty cruel to steal the free will of the people to choose where they want to live. The knights close the doors to the town and tell everyone to return home by the order of Aemond. This causes even more chaos now that people are hearing Aemond ordering them around. Forrest Frey talks to Jace about how Grover Tully hasn't yet declared for Rhaena. Jace tells them Jason Lannister is marshaling to the west, and they need to check him before he reaches Riverrun, and that requires a passage. They are just scared that Stark's army might not be on time. Sabitha Frye clarifies that they do support Rhaenyra, but they need some kind of protection too against Vagar. Jace reminds them that they have dragons too, and assures them that he and Daemon will protect them. Jace questions what exactly they want, and following the next words of Sabitha, he realizes they want Harrenhal. Luckily, Jace doesn't seem to have any issue with that deal. Instead, he gets to take more from the Freys than he initially came for. Daemon is himself working on the reconstruction of the castle, something Alice finds weird. But according to him, this is like getting his hands dirty in war. Alice helps treat Daemon's wounded hands, along with trying to knock some sense in him that threatening the families of the Brackens is not war but a crime against innocent women and children. She also reasons that raising an army that hates him isn't going to work in his favor in the long run. Daemon reminds her that Aegon will not survive and Aemond will be a tyrant who won't be good to anyone. Alice says the same words have been in the air about him too, but then mocks him that she is sure that his actions are approved by Queen Rhaenyra. Daemon tells her Rhaenyra won't succeed on her own, and after doing as he plans, he will stand beside her helping her rule. As Daemon leaves, Alice mentions his mother for some reason, making him halt on his steps. However, Simon walks in there bringing a message for Daemon, telling him the Brackens have surrendered to him. Baela walks to a mourning Corlys, telling him Queen Rhaenyra wishes to name him her hand. Corlys seems to be in an emotionally sensitive state to call this an attempt for Rhaenyra to use Rhaenys' death and take everything away from them. Baela reminds him that Rhaenys accepted Rhaenyra as her queen of free will, because it is something Rhaenys was herself robbed of. She also tells him that Rhaenys died a death she had wanted, and she also wants to meet her end at the same way as Rhaenys. As Baela is walking away, Corlys expresses his desire to name her the heir of Driftmark. Rhaenyra calls Alfred, accepting that she made a mistake by waiting for Daemon to prove himself, and she wants him to go to Harrenhal and convince Daemon to come back. She clears out that she isn't removing him from the council, but wants something to go to Daemon rather than a raven, and try to reason with him and get to know his intentions of whether he is raising a host for himself or Rhaenyra. Simon hastily rushes to Daemon's room at an odd hour of the night, telling him that the River Lords have come and want to see him right now. Daemon questions why they dared to get him out of bed this late at night, but all of them start complaining how the sacred septs of Bracken lands, their fields and farms were all looted and burned, and that women and children were pursued barbarically. They mention how the Blackwoods exploited this war to avenge their old rivals. All this while wearing the banner of the Targaryens. Things get complicated for Daemon when the River Lords tell him they won't raise their banners for tyrants at any cost, and leave. Sent by Rhaenyra, Elinda reaches the town and enters using Myssaria's name to go meet someone. Aemon proudly looks at the Iron Throne that he stole from his brother, while Alicent is tortured seeing her elder son in such a pained state. Jace visits Rhaenyra, who is busy looking at Vagar's first rider, a woman, but Jace doesn't think she should ever use this example as times have changed. Jace is about to walk off when Rhaenyra asks about the mood of the twins. Jace happily walks back, updating Rhaenyra about his accomplishment. She shows pride in Jace, but also shares her agitation for not being able to do her part in this wartime. Jace confronts why he isn't allowed to leave for tasks, so Rhaenyra reminds him his dragon is still young, and going against Vagar in that state is going to give him a similar fate as Luke. Rhaenyra shares how they lack dragon riders, and if Aemon takes action soon, the only option is for her to use Syrax to fight against Vagar. Jace eventually suggests them having relatives who were married off to other noble families and never ruled. Rhaenyra reminds him that a dragon only accepts dragon lords to ride it, as in the histories, but Jace tells her Valyrian history only wrote stuff to show their glory, so there isn't any guarantee of it. Even though trying this is a mad thought, Rhaenyra seems to be willing to give it a try.